In this lesson, we're going over how to divide a fraction by a mixed number. You gotta make sure you follow these steps here, and I'll go over those steps in example 1. You are going to do the same exact thing by pausing the video and trying example 2 on your own. Coming up on the math review. So our first example says 3 over 8 divided by 7 1/2. Step 1 says to convert any mixed numbers into fractions. And when you're doing that, it's really important to make sure you know that those are going to be improper fractions. So in this problem, our mixed number is 7 1/2. Remember that mixed numbers have a whole number and fraction right next to each other. So to convert that to an improper fraction, we'll take our denominator and multiply it by the whole number. So 2 times 7 is going to give us 14. Then the last step is to make sure we add our 14 plus the numerator. So 14 plus 1 equals 15. So we'll write that here. And finally, we have to just keep our denominator the same. In this mixed number, our denominator is 2. So we'll just write 2 under 15. This first number is already a fraction, so we'll just bring that down. And don't forget to bring down your division symbol. Next, we've got to use our KCF chart to create a multiplication problem. So let's set that up. So now that we've got our KCF chart set up, let's make sure we follow each step accordingly. The K stands for keep. So I'm going to keep the 3 over 8 exactly the same. The C stands for change. What I'm changing is division into multiplication. So I'll write my multiplication symbol right here. And finally, the F stands for flip. So right now it's 15 over 2. We're going to flip that so the top becomes the bottom and the bottom becomes the top. So instead of 15 over 2, this will be 2 over 15. So I would normally go to step 3 and 4, which is just to multiply across. But I also like the strategy called cross cancellation. I'm going to zoom in to make sure that we get a very clear understanding of it. So here's how cross cancellation works. I'm going to look at the top of this fraction and the bottom of this fraction. And then I'll ask myself, hey, what number can divide both 3 and 15? If there isn't one, then we won't do anything. But looking at 3 and 15, I know both of these numbers can be divided by the number 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I'll cross this off and put a 1 next to it. And then 15 divided by 3 is 5. So I'll cross off 15 and I'll write a 5 instead. The next thing I'll do is go the other way, looking at the bottom here and the top here. What do you think? Is there any number that can divide both 8 and 2? Well, yeah. Both of these are even, so right away they can be divided by the number 2. And what's 8 divided by 2? Well, that's 4. So I'll cross that off and I'll put a 4 instead. And what's 2 divided by 2? Well, that's 1. So I'll cross that off and I'll put a 1 there instead. Now that I've cross-canceled everything, what I like to do is rewrite my new fractions. So let's scroll down a little bit. So in this fraction here, my new top is 1, my new bottom is 4, so I'll rewrite that as 1 over 4. Then I'll write my multiplication symbol, and I'll do the same thing for my second fraction. The top here is 1, the bottom here is 5, so I'll rewrite this as the fraction 1 over 5. Now all I have to do is multiply straight across. 1 times 1 equals 1. And 4 times 5 equals 20. So my final answer is 1 over 20. Here's question 2. Pause the video and try it on your own. Good luck. Okay, so let's get to question 2. Here we have 9 over 10 divided by 5 and 3 over 5. Our first step is to convert any mixed numbers we have into improper fractions. In order to do that, we need to do the following. Step 1. We need to multiply our denominator 5 by our whole number, which here also happens to be 5. 5 times 5 will give us 25. Let's write that result here. The next thing we have to do is add the numerator to that result. So we'll have 25 plus 3, and that's 28. Let's write that here. So in our improper fraction, the numerator will be 28. The denominator is going to be exactly the same as it was when we started, which is 5. Since our first number is already a regular fraction, we don't have to change it at all. But let's bring it down so that we have our space to work with. Step 2 says we have to use a KCF chart to create a multiplication problem. So let's scroll down and give ourselves a little bit more space to do that. 9 over 10 is in our K column, so we'll keep it exactly the same. Our division is going to change to multiplication. And finally, the F stands for flip. So 28 over 5 is going to flip and become 5 over 28. Step 3 and 4 say to multiply the numerators across and multiply the denominators across. But the numbers would be huge. There's an easier way to do it. Just like we did in example 1, let's use cross cancellation. So let's start with our numerator here and our denominator here. Is there any number that can divide both 9 and 28? I don't believe so. So we'll leave those alone. But let's look across this way. Let's look at the denominator here and the numerator here. 10 and 5. Is there any number that can divide both 10 and 5? Well, yeah. Both 10 and 5 can be divided by 5. So let's do that. 10 divided by 5 is 2. So I'll cross that off and put a 2 here instead. And 5 divided by 5 is just 1. So I'll cross that off and put a 1 instead. Then what I like to do is rewrite my fractions with my new values. The top here is 9, the bottom here is 2. I'll rewrite this as 9 over 2. I'll bring down my multiplication symbol, and then I'll rewrite this. The top is 1, the bottom is 28, so I'll write that as 1 over 28. So now I can do step 3 and 4. I'll multiply my numerators and multiply my denominators. 9 times 1 equals 9. And what's 2 times 28? Just in case you're not sure, I'll show the work over here. 2 times 8 is 16. I'll bring down the 6 and carry the 1. 2 times 2 is 4. Plus 1 is 5. So 2 times 28 equals 56. So our final answer is 9 over 56. So how'd you do with problem 2? Did you think it was easy? Hard? Did you do it some other way? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you don't miss any more of our videos. Thanks for watching.